You are?
Anthony of Fanboy Factor.
Okay.
And I'm here with James Tucker, executive producer and showrunner of Batman Cape Crusader. So, first question I would like to ask is, since you are the showrunner of, one of the showrunners, I believe, of Batman Cape Crusader, Batman's been around for like almost 100 years at this point.
Yes.
So what are like the challenges of like actually creating your own depiction of that character that honors the core values of that character, but also doing something that's somewhat more uniquely different that no one has ever tackled before?
Well, in the case of our show, it got greenlit because it was tied to BTAS, or Batman the Anime series originally, at least as far as, one of the creators was on the original show, Bruce Dell. And, it would have been very easy just to do an extension of that show. Well, not easy, actually would have been very hard, which is why we chose not to do that. We chose to, go back to the source material of the Golden Age original comic, the very first Batman stories, and reimagine those. And because that was set in the 40s and 30s and 40s, it gave it that noir, all the confluences of the noir and the universal monster, all the things the comic strip was pulling from originally, I should say. And so we just went to basics. I mean, I think most of the people you're going to interview who are producing Batman stories know the character. And the great thing about Batman is he's malleable. You can change things as long as you keep the core of who he is, what his mission is, and what his whole world is as far as the Bat, motifs and things. You can reimagine it, and it'll still feel like Batman. And so, for our show, it was easy because we were just going back to basics. We were just looking at the original comics and going, okay, millionaire, but what would that be like now in a 2000s, 220s view?
Interesting. All right, for question 2, given the fact that Cape Crusader is a very heavily animated series with actual animators and stuff like that, how do you feel in contrast going forward in the next couple of years with AI? How do you feel like Batman as a character can combat against that kind of new medium?
I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I just don't, as it is now, I don't think AI has the taste, like the innate taste level to produce something that appeals to people. Like, humans tell other human stories, and they're the best for doing that so far.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think like everything, people complained about computers at first overwhelming us, and I think if it's kept in check, it'll be a good tool for somebody somewhere down the line. Someone will figure out a truly creative way to possibly use it. Right now, people are just trying to use it to supplant creative people. And once they realize you can't do that, it'll be something new and different.
Okay. One more question. All right. Last question. As you mentioned before, Batman Cape Crusader, while it has been primarily pulp focused and dark crime noir, there were a couple episodes in that first season that was very horror focused that was really enjoyable, and I'm wondering in the next season will we have more horror centered episodes?
Yeah, we have, we don't want to stray too far away from those influences. So second season is probably going to lean more towards the noir, but we do have a few horror-based episodes within that. So we'll keep the mix.
All right, cool. Thank you for your time, and also season 1 was amazing. So thank you. Hi, Mike Roth. This is Anthony of Fanboy Factor, and I am speaking with Mike Roth, executive producer and showrunner of Batfam. So the first question I have to ask is, how did the concept of Batfam come about? Like, what was the process when this series was developed?
Yeah, I think it obviously it comes from the movie, right? And as we were making the movie, we got really excited about what else we could do with this property. And I think, as we were doing it, it's like, man, there's just so many stories, so many more stories to tell, and so many more characters that we want to see. So I think it sort of came from that. It's like, what happens if we bring other members of the Batman universe into the household, and what other villains can we explore?
Interesting. Second question I have to ask is, it seems like you have a couple of different interpretations, like you mentioned, that a couple of different interpretations you pulled inspiration from.
Yeah.
And some of it comes to mind, of course, is the Adam West series, but was there any particular comics in particular that you were like, oh, we should like kind of explore this area with, like, you have a Man-Bat in the crew, so it seems like something out of like James Tinian's like kind of like a detective story stuff. So I was just curious about, like, what was the decision of having that cast of characters to be the Bat Fam?
Well, as you probably know, there's, the Bat Fam comic from the 70s, and there's other iterations of the Bat Fam. And I think for us, it's like, people already kind of paved those lanes, and it's like, again, so much of this property is like sort of exploring those spaces of Batman that we don't usually get to see. So I think it was, we're really excited, to bring in characters that, make sense to be part of the family, but aren't necessarily traditionally part of the family.
Right.
Like, Roth Al Ghul, Claire Selton, aka Volcana, so
Interesting.
Which is brand new character.
Right. So last question I'll ask pretty much is, what are the challenges with introducing a different depiction of the character that hasn't been done before, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, one is you get a really good art director. Guillaume Pesquet is our art director, and you get a really good character designer, Ben Tong. Certainly helps a lot. How do I answer? So, Batman, of course, has so many different iterations, and so it is a character that's flexible, right? And I think one of the things that makes all of them work is they're always tethered to something. They're always tethered to kind of the tried and true and the things you want and see from Batman. There's still a stoic kind of ness to Batman, and I think with each of the different designs and each of the different characters, it's still like even though we're pushing it and taking it in a different direction, you still want to be tethered to something that's recognizable and familiar to fans. But it's just, we're kind of exploring this over here, if that makes sense.
All right, well, thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to Bat Fam. Have a good one. Hi, this is Anthony of Fanboy Factor, and I'm here with Simon J. Smith, executive producer of Batwheels. So, with Batman as a character who's been around for nearly 100 years at this point, what were the fun challenges of reimagining that character and his world for a more kid-friendly audience?
I think we wanted to have a legitimate Batman. We all love Batman, we all love Gotham. I think the main thing was we didn't want to talk down to the audience and make him have the feeling that he is kid-friendly. So what we do is we have Batman being concerned about crime and being himself. We just don't reveal the dark past from other canons of Batman, like his parents didn't get shot outside the cinema. They may have done in our world, we just don't say it. And similar with the Joker's dark background or Mr. Freeze's dark background, they have pretty dark origin stories. That may have happened in our world, we just don't mention it. So that way you can still have legitimate characters of the DC Batman canon, we just don't reveal the dark. So deep and dark.
Okay, the second question is, have there been any episodes in particular where there were particular story arcs that you always wanted to adapt that were retrofitted for Batwheels?
Not really. I mean, I think we always have a brainstorming before each season. We get some really talented writers, and my co-showrunner Michael G. Stern, he created it, and he's the lead writer, obviously, on it. We get into a room for 2 weeks, and we just start throwing things at the wall and seeing what fits and what kind of feels fun, and how we're kind of pushing and pulling the Batwheels universe into something even more fun and exciting. So I think there's loads of things that naturally come up, and we try and make sure they all get through. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't feel quite right. But we really want to try and have as much fun as possible.
Nice. final question. What has been the most liberating experience working on Batwheels that makes it such a fun project to work on?
I think you have the most liberating thing on Batwheels is you have a chance to write lots of different stories. And I came from the feature world originally, DreamWorks. And those are big movies and they take a long time, but they're singular stories. The lovely thing about Batwheels is you have 40 chances to have a go at different types of stories, and that's a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, I look forward to Batwheels, and also thank you for taking the time.
Of course, thanks very much.
Have a good one. Okay, I'm with Juan Meza-Leon. Did I pronounce that right?
I see it.
This is Andy from Fanboy Factor, and I'm going to ask this one question here. For Batman Aztec, what was the challenge of making this depiction of this character that stood out drastically different from any other Elseworlds version of anything that might have been close to or similar? But yeah, how do you still keep the core values of Batman still intact?
Yeah, no, I think the challenge was keeping exactly that, keeping the core essence, the spirit of who the character is. And the next one is trying to put those essential elements that make Batman, but in a whole new character. Because this is now Bruce Wayne. This is Yahualicuatl, a young warrior in the Mesoamerica time. And how can we turn him into Batman so that we don't just have Batman with feathers on it and there you go, Aztec Batman. No, but really exploring what the fighting techniques were, the warrior elements of the culture, and how can we incorporate that into the costume and feel organic, like it could actually happen. Because I don't know, we had jaguar warriors, eagle warriors, but why not a bat warrior? You know, and also. The way where we got in there is there used to be a deity, Tinaca, which the Mexica would worship. So that was the perfect way to this is a warrior that can, at one point, he can take the mantle of this bat god, so that he can transform into the spirit of vengeance. And it's funny because in the movie we never call him Batman. He's never referred to as Batman. He's always El Guerrero Murciélago, which is the bat warrior, or Tinaca, which is the name of the bat god. So that's a whole new take on the character, but we tried our best to keep the essence, the very spirit of him. And I think Ernie Outbacker did an amazing job coming up with the structure of the story and all the input that I gave him about the history of the conquest and how to weave it together into this origin story of this Batman. And at the very beginning, I wanted him to indirectly or directly affect the outcome of this historical setting. You know, so I think the team did a fantastic job. We captured the answers not only just of Batman, but also of the villains, especially Joker. And there's moments in the movie where we reveal how Cortez transforms into the main villain, and there's little key elements that even though you don't say it, you see it and you go, "That's Two-Face," and people go crazy over it. So. We would love to continue that. Hopefully, expand the story, because if you saw the movie, it's just the beginning.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.